Hi, good morning. Good morning, Jatin Trivedi.
Morning.
Today is the World IP Day. And on this IP Day, I have with me Mr. Jatin Trivedi. Jatin is an authority on intellectual property, patents and trademarks. He is a senior member of Jatin Trivedi, one of the leading intellectual property attorneys and advocates in the country. Mr. Jatin is virtually omnipresent in Ahmedabad when we talk about patents and trademarks. He is advisor to most premier institutions like IIM, NIRMA, PTPU, Gujarat University, Ahmedabad University. I think the list is endless. He is omnipresent on all the premier associations in Ahmedabad, GESIA, FICCI, GCCI, AMA. He is also the founder member of Gujarat Innovation Society. I welcome Jatin on this show, and I would like, our topic for the day is why is IP the fuel of 2021? So Jatin ji, my first question to you is why is the IP Day celebrated?
Alright, so Tejinder, it's a very basic and initial question which people keeps on asking me when I wish them on a World Intellectual Property Day. It's very essential for us to know, as being an intellectual property practitioners, we know everything, but we don't know that what is the why the World Intellectual Property Day is being celebrated. As we celebrate, to commemorate the any act, like we celebrate the Father's Day, we celebrate the Science Day. Similar way in 1972, when the first treaty was signed to form the World Intellectual Property Organization under the United Nations, that was the time when the World Intellectual Property Day was signed, and the treaty was signed to form the World Intellectual Property Day. That is on 26th of April. And so as to commemorate that and bring the awareness of the intellectual property in the world, since 1992 it is being celebrated as a World Intellectual Property Day.
Good. So this is 1972. We actually incorporated the intellectual property treaty. Was the law?
Right. It's a World Intellectual Property Organization, which is under the United Nations. There are several treaties under that. Depends upon the subject. But yes, in 1972, the World Intellectual Property Organization was established.
Okay. This is almost now about 47 years that this trade has been in practice and
Correct.
established
World over.
world over.
Yeah.
So the topic of today's discussion is IP is the fuel for 2021.
Correct.
Is it a fuel to go to space? It's like a business rocket fuel, or is it a fuel to sustain and survive? There have been a lot of questions like intellectual property. There are a lot of conceptions and misconceptions about intellectual property. So I would like to ask you, can intellectual property be my fuel to send my business space rocketing?
That's the most selfish question usually the businessmen ask, that why we should look for the intellectual property, right? And why intellectual property should be created and why intellectual property should be protected otherwise. But I do agree on the topic what GESIA has framed is that intellectual property is the fuel for the 21st century. And I completely in consist with the theme, and I would say that it is not just fuel for the 21st century, but it is a fuel for the coming centuries as well. It's very interesting to know that when I was just trying to read out something about the 21st century fuel, I realized that why the fuel? Why you as a GESIA has put the word fuel very interestingly. But if you look into the any automation or any mechanism or any vehicle to be driven, you require some sort of fuel. So any engine, if you are running, any industry cannot be run without the engine. So if you run any engine or any vehicle or any equipment, you need some sort of fuel, right? And as the premiums, fuel, you run more faster, right? So you correctly says that if the intellectual property is a fuel for the jets. So if you want to fly like a rocket, and if you want to be on the top of everything, then I believe the intellectual property is the fuel for the 21st century. Adding to that is, as faster as you grow, usually what the industry look for, to my understanding is that the industry always looks for the sustainability in the growth, right? And to bring the sustainability in the growth, you need something or another to bring it on the table, which is a competitive. In competitive in sense of that your competitor cannot copy easily, your competitor cannot bring it easily in the market, and there can be so-called monopoly in retail. So I believe that the industry should definitely look for the intellectual property to protect it, not only to bring it on the table, but to protect it and to be vigilant for against the imitation as well. So if you look into the usual mentality of the industry, is that because of they look for the sustainable growth, and sustainable growth can only bring it by the competitiveness. Competitiveness is only and only can be brought by the intellectual property. And so as this is the fuel which every industry should definitely relish and definitely bring it on the table.
So we have on one side a statement which says data and content are going to be the currencies. So we have IP, which is going to be the fuel for business driving.
It's very interesting that data is going to be a currency, that I completely agree. But if you look into the intellectual property, it's made out of the data. So the intellectual property can be created out of the all currency, which you may have in a digital format. And those all combined with, you can bring in something very innovative, very unique, which is not exist in the world, and that can be intellectual property.
Right. Now I'll ask, GESIA is an association of IT companies, and we develop intellectual property. IT today is one of the largest areas where intellectual property is getting created. We have companies who work on other people's IP, we have companies who work on their own IPs. How do you define whether it is my IP or my customer's IP?
So first is that, if you are entering into the contract with the company, right, more particularly in the terms of intellectual property for the IT industry, you should definitely look at for that sort of protection maybe of contracts, right? And if I rightly understood your question, you wish to know that how best we can protect the intellectual property from the creative front.
No, that's possibly my next question.
Okay.
My first question is, how do I identify whether what I have is an intellectual property, whether I'm aware, how do I?
Alright, so see, first of all, intellectual property is something which everybody holds, right? Even if it is me, you, or maybe individual, or maybe in capacity of a director of the company or in capacity of the innovator, intellectual property is something which is carved by or take place with the exercise of the intellect, what we have, right? So the first intellectual property has been given to us by our parents is by our name, right? So as we discussed about the uniqueness of your last name is something which is an intellectual property. So people identify us as by our name, and our characteristics are revealed when I say when I referred someone's name, right? If someone referred my name and then people connected with the intellectual property expertise. So this is where the characteristics of the intellectual property. And I believe that it is common in industry that they do have the intellectual property, but they don't have the sense that they do have the intellectual property. Now coming to the point that how best they can identify those intellectual property. I believe that we should introspect, and whatever the uniqueness, whatever the newness we find it in our product, or if any solution we brought it in our industry, or help the industry client to solve that problem, that is an intellectual property. And I believe that all the industry people should definitely look for this kind of newness which they have brought it on the table. They bring it, but they don't realize that it is an intellectual property.
And how do you protect it? Like if I realize that this is the intellectual piece that I am holding, how can I protect it? That's my next question.
Well, that depends upon which intellectual property you are referring to, right? If you are referring a patent, if you are referring a trademark, you are referring a copyright, or you are referring a design, these all has a different procedures.
I think we can quickly cover how do you differentiate between a patent, trademark,
Right, so ideal example, if you take it an example of a pen, right? If you look into the pen, the nib of the pen, that's the reason why we can write it very smoothly. That nib is an invention of someone, and that can be claimed as a patent, right? But if you look into the brand of the pen, right, you find it X brand or Y brand by which you purchase the product. That is a trademark, right? A name given to the product. If you look into the certain pens which has a different shapes, right? That shape is catching the eye of the consumers. That is something designed. And the way the Pierre Cardin is written, the way the Mobla is written, that is something a copyright. And if you see the symbol, sometimes you see the symbol on the pen and you realize that it is Mobla, or if it is a Pierre Cardin, or if it is a Arrow, or if it is a Raymond's, or the Renault. So these are the intellectual property comprising one 10 rupees pen or maybe 100 rupees pen.
It's very interesting thing that you actually clarified it on such a simple example of using a pen just to differentiate between the four pieces.
And most of us use it, right?
Yes.
So every day we use it. We never realize
And
that
we do not realize whether how is one different from the other.
Right.
So that's very interesting. So now, what pieces should be protected, and why should they be protected? So which one should be protected for protecting from competition, and which one should be protected for valuation?
Okay. One is that I do not differentiate these two questions very frankly, because if you protect something to stay competitive, right? Obviously, it will enhance your value. Right? So, taking both the question together, first and foremost, I would appeal to the industry that they should definitely protect all sorts of intellectual property without analyzing that how the worth of the intellectual property is. Today, the intellectual property is costing say few thousand rupees for patenting it, or few 100,000 for the global patenting it, but it will be a worth of millions and millions of dollars. Giving an example, I'm sure you must be aware about that when the Instagram was started, right? It was a combination of two existing products, and the founder of the Instagram wanted to come up with a unique product. And later when they come with the Instagram, I believe the Facebook has purchased them at the billions dollar payment. So I disagree on the point that you need to analyze and scrutinize that which are the IPs should be protected and which are not to be protected. All the IPs should be protected, because you never realize, you will never know rather, that which intellectual property will enhance the value or will give you a handsome amount of it. So giving one more example, we all are aware about the tin opening nib. So when you open the Coca-Cola tin, there's a nib which you need to pull it, right? Now this nib was invented by somebody. He was not having a manufacturing capacity, right? Neither he was a tin manufacturer. So, but what he has done, this technology he patented, and he released it out, is licensed out to the Coca-Cola at a 0.01 penny as a royalty per tin. And you will surprise at the end of the day when this title or the patent was expired, it was millions of pounds per day he was getting out of it. So, not necessarily that IP can be applied or IP can be owned or IP can be claimed by only and only the person who is capable of manufacturing it or capable of marketing it.
So what is the process? Like if a small, like we are all largely a group of SMEs, and how should, let's say if any of us identify that this is an intellectual property I would like to patent, what should be the next steps? How should it move?
In the IT industry, so far where in my 25 years of experience as a practitioner, I've been consulted by the IT industry as well, and I'm closely associated with the GESIA for the last almost 7-8 years now. I realize that there is a myth that the software is not patented. I do agree partially to this myth or the statement, but I disagree completely, right? Because software can be patented, but it depends that how you are applying. Now, whether a software attached with the hardware or enabling the hardware to function in some way, then such kind of software per se are patentable. So now coming to the question is that what they should do. First and foremost is that they should remember that if it is we are referring to patent and a design, that they should not disclose even with the developer. If they are using this intellectual property and giving it to the developer or the marketer, they should definitely protect first by way of contract or sealed by the contract or share certain information only by which the other party cannot copy it. Because the law says that they should first make an application before the controller and then they can advertise or and then they can apply for it. Because when they apply, it should be novel and non-exist in the world.
Okay.
So that's a patent and design. In a trademark, they can apply at any time, but it has to be applied with the specific information. And usually people, because in our industry there are a lot of competition, people look for online process for filing the patents and trademarks, which are little economical way. But sometimes they make a mistake because they are not into the practice, so they don't know that what kind of mistake they realize. So I would suggest and appeal to the all GESIA members and to the viewers that they should definitely protect the intellectual property and consider the intellectual property as an investment, not as an expenditure.
And what are the risks associated with protecting or taking intellectual property, making intellectual property moves?
So I would say that it's the only property in the world which does not carry any risk, because any intellectual property, it starts with a minimum period of 10 years, like say trademark or a design. It gives you a right for at least 10 years. So till 10 years you are already owner, and then remaining years it's subject to that you want to go ahead with it and you want to make an application, you can continue with it by filing the renewals. Then it calls for the cost. But the initial period, whenever you have invested for filing it, then till 10 years I don't see that there will be any kind of risk.
Okay, so it's a risk-free investment.
Property. Risk-free property,
investment property.
and it's a worth investing.
Well, I think that's something. So, what should be the next steps that we should ask? We should ask our members how, because to basically, how do you gain? How do you, let's say, benefit directly from this? And how do you, let's say, you file the patent, then what are the other things that you need to do, like protecting yourself?
Keeping a watch out. The intellectual property is a property which gives you a benefit in several ways. Like even if, as I said, that even if you are not producing it, you can earn the money out of licensing it. You can earn the money by giving somebody to manufacture on your behalf, or you can earn by joining the hands with the technological collaboration with some BDs, and that BDs can pay you the royalty at the end of the day. So, and as far as the GESIA is concerned, I'm sure that we are today launching the a facilitation
announcement.
Right. So I will come to that part later. But people should be more and more aware, and I believe that it's a belief that the intellectual property is connected to the industry only. I appeal to everyone that it is not connected only to the industry. Rather, I would say it is go to the grassroots level, and everybody should protect their intellectual property. Be it a housewife, be it a children, be it a students, be it a engineer, be it whatsoever you are. Not necessarily that you should be a business.
Let's say now I have protected an intellectual property. How do I find out that somebody else is not copying it, or somebody else has not copied it and started using it, and how do I challenge if something like that happens?
Alright, as far as the market analysis or market survey is concerned, I believe that you need to have one is the expert who can assist you, because they keep the track on the intellectual property publications. So they can guide you. One is that similar technology has been published, and the law allows you to file the objection to such publication or to such claims by that party, and there are certain periods, depends upon the which intellectual property you are referring to, but they gives you certain periods to oppose that grant. And also in the terms of market, I believe that you should, because you will be the people who will go into the market. So if you find the product in the market, you should immediately make an action, because sometime delay may defeat our action. You know, the court may say that when you go to the court of law, they will say that you know you have allowed them to go for 10 years, 5 years, 7 years now, and now why I should restrain them now. So ideally is that you should move it very immediately.
So anything else that you would like to cover on the subject?
Right. So I would just tell and appeal to the all innovators who is watching this. I would say that you know don't caught in the incentive schemes,
Okay.
because my understanding is the incentive schemes are effects to the creativity. If you are creating something and if you are innovating something, you are innovative or creative because you are an innovative person, not just because the government is incentivizing. So don't look at that, you know, okay, patent may be, now I am getting a grant of the government, so let me just do a couple of patents. Here at this point, I would say that, you know, be innovative and stay ahead. Recent year in China, I'm sure many of viewers must be aware of, that in China has come up with the mandate and the policy that they have disqualified some of the inventions which has filed, you know, just for the sake of the incentive benefits. Not only limiting to that, nullifying the patents, but they have also taken the action against the law firms who has assisted in filing these applications. So not in typical way, it's a scandalous act, but I would say that it doesn't bring anything on the table exactly what the government wants. Because government want, why they are incentivizing you is because they want some innovativeness in the world, some innovativeness in the state, in the country, and be prosper or bring the prosperity in the country directly or indirectly. So in that case, I would suggest that don't attract by the incentives, and again stay innovative and stay ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So at this stage, we at GESIA realize that IP is going to be the fuel of 2021. What Mr. Jatin updated us, it is a very important property that all of us can build, the valuations of which can be huge, though not very clearly known today. We at GESIA also believe that most of us are very ignorant on the subject, and therefore we have decided to launch a help desk today, being an IP day. And Mr. Jatin has honorably accepted our proposal of assisting GESIA members on this help desk absolutely free of charge. So you can all make your requests, we can fix an appointment with Jatin and you can go and see him. And this service is available from the association absolutely free. Thank you.
There are certain, to add on that, that there are certain questions we have analyzed there.
Yeah.
So at the website of the GESIA, so you can have a look into those questions. And above and all that, if you have still further questions, then you can definitely approach to the GESIA office or my office, and you all are welcome for any kind of consultation in terms of intellectual property.
A new intellectual property page has been put up on GESIA website, and you can use some basic questions that are available there, and you can use that also. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you all of you, and thanks to GESIA and the Opera. I really enjoyed, and definitely we'll stay
We
in
look
touch.
forward to more such
For sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.